This is actually a door trim from a Subaru Legacy or a Subaru Liberty, depending on what country you're in. And first off, you're going to undo all the paneling and pull the panel off. Once you've gone to that stage, this is how your door will look. Now this will vary on car to car circumstances, but they will have this waterproof membrane that will be in the car. Sometimes it's like this, sometimes it's torn up, depending on the year model of your vehicle. So the easiest way we find to cut templates is to actually pull this off and trace it. And that is really the simplest way to go. So you would undo your speakers, pull all that off, and it's just simply stuck on by this never dry adhesive. So this is sort of a sticky adhesive that's always on the car. I'm sticking it to myself here. But we would pull that off. So I'm going to show you on this panel over here. This one we already pulled off a little bit earlier, just to save time. You can see here, we pulled it all off, and here it is on the bench. This one was a little bit torn, a little bit sticky. Now it's important to do that because this gives us our overall outline, but also any holes that need to be retained. Because when you're putting these panels back on, there is stages like this where there needs to be a hole for the door lock cables to come through, or the interior panels need to stick on. And by using SoundSkins, because it comes in these large, long sheets, they're actually 1/2 meter by 2 meters long, you can do this in one single piece. And that's like retaining this factory waterproof seal, okay? So, we're gonna roll this out now. We're gonna take the SoundSkins Pro, roll it out on our cutting bench. We're gonna show you the best way to trace it and cut it. So we're gonna show you a couple of the tools that we would actually use when we're doing a vehicle with this. But first and foremost, let's talk about the tube. So we actually pull this or put this in tubes. You're just gonna lift the lid off. We actually introduced a little air hole in the bottom of these rolls just to make those lids easier to come off, because they were actually getting super stuck for everyone. It took a little while to get them off. So we fixed the packaging for you guys. The reason we have it in a roll is because it's a large single piece, and that we can actually keep it rolled up without tearing it or anything. And it keeps it quite compact for shipping. Covers 11 square foot per roll. So in terms of the inches, I can't remember how high they are. I think they're 29 by 79 inches. It's about 1/2 meter by 2 meters long in the metric system. But check it out on our website, SoundSkins Global. We've got all the imperial measurements and specs there. It is actually on this box actually too. So 20 inches high by 79 inches long per sheet. So there you go. Now, some of the tools we actually use here when we're doing a car, we would use a Phillips head screwdriver. So bring the camera in, we'll show you these. Phillips head screwdriver just to pull off any speakers, a rag, wax and grease remover, sometimes called Prepsol in other countries, I think. But wax and grease remover, it's an evaporative, gets rid of all that sticky residue. We use a texter or a marker, as you would call it overseas, just to outline things. We do use a hole punch, and this is for cutting our holes, a mallet for the hole punch, a knife, and we actually use material scissors. Now, we have just found the material scissors are a good way to cut our SoundSkins material and give you those nice shapes. So we're gonna move these out of the way, unroll the roll, and I'm gonna show you what we would do. We're gonna cut this outside layer first, and then we're going to show you how we would do the inside cavities of the door trim as well, because you actually do the inside and the outside, and that's like lining the inside and outside of a box. The reason you would do the outside is to create seals over these holes, creates like a sound, like a box. Now the best way to do this, you can actually cut two sides at once if you wanted to, but we're going to stay focused on one side. You can actually check the directions of your logo in if you want to make sure that is up the correct way for your installation, makes it nice and neat. So we're going to take this is a driver's or a passenger door, depending on what side you drive on and what country, and we're going to lay this down. And this really is the simplest way to cut out a template. Now we're going to make it with the sticky side up, and there you go. And what we're going to do is simply trace around it. So if we trace around the outside, we're going to get our shape. So we're going to quickly zoom through this for you. Just going to show you. And what we're going to cut here, we're going to make sure we get any holes that are actually on the vehicle, because this is important for the cable. So we actually mark these. We go out and we make sure we punch all these out, so it's actually going to be perfect for the vehicle as well. So we're going to cut it out around the speaker. any line. So the outside line actually can move a little bit because you can put it on the trim and cut it down a little bit, but there you have it. So that is the outline done. That's the outline of our door trim. So we're going to actually pull this template off. Now just make sure you mark it. If you make any mistakes, you can draw over those lines or whatever you need. But this will give you your rough outline, so we can actually see it there. So it is important at this stage, you want to make sure if it's not a very dark line, just to go over it, or if you want to keep your circles exactly the right size. We know that if we're using some of these circles, the actual speaker panels will go onto them, so it's not going to matter. And we use a hole punch that is slightly a little bit larger for the particular reason that it gives us a little bit of leeway when we're putting these templates on. There's two ways you can cut these. Traditionally, use a knife. You can actually use a knife and go around the edge, slice it, or material scissors. The reason we would use either is that the knife can sometimes tear the foam. Because SoundSkin actually has a foam on it, if you're slicing through the foam and it catches up, if your blade's not very sharp, it will tear the foam. And there is actually metal in there as well, so it actually does make it a little bit hard to slice. So we're going to show you both here, but it's actually quite easy to cut it as a pair of material scissors. And you really get those nice finishes or those nice curves. So it just depends on what you're doing. If we were cutting a nice straight line, I would probably use the ruler and a knife. But because I'm doing some curves on this one, I'm actually going to be using the scissors. It's going to give us our shape. So get an idea of this. There you go. So that's going to give us our shape when we go onto our paneling. Now, you can, like I said, use a knife, so we'll show you that. On this other side, if we're going to slice this side off, and we'll give you an indication of how it works. So there you go. That is if it would be a knife. Now, obviously both methods work. Just choose what's available to you and what is going to be best. But we're going to go through now. We're going to cut the rest of this outline all the way through. So you can see this backing paper is actually tearing a little bit, but that's not going to matter because the front actually sits nice and neat because it is a foam. Next step would be to actually cut out the hole. So we're going to go through this, and we do use a knife for this. Now, some of these openings which are longer, we actually do slice a section through it so we can actually keep the opening as small as possible. We're just going to slice them. So anything with a straight line, I'm going to slice. So there's a couple of these. You can actually check this on your vehicle, but sometimes the passenger and driver's side are exactly the same if the manufacturer has done them well, but they can vary from side to side. But if it wasn't, you could actually flip this over and do the passenger side or the driver's side, whatever the alternative is. So next we're going to use one of these. It's just a little hole punch. You can actually buy them online. They're a very cheap tool to buy. You can buy them in sets in different sizes. We use this size as a generic size for us in store. And we're going to punch this over any of the holes that we have. And it's pretty easy to do. It's going to hit it and it will cut the hole out. And the reason we do it like that is it actually keeps this very, very nice hole, and it keeps it consistent. It gives us a little bit of leeway to move around when we're actually sticking the material onto the vehicle, and looks very nice at the end of the day, the finishing job. So any of these slits that we actually cut, you can actually hit the ends of those and give them a bit of leeway as well. So we actually cut the slits, but then put holes in the end of it. Now I'm going to go through and quickly do this because this will take me another 5 minutes or so. We're going to quickly do that and show you how we would put it on the vehicle. 2 extra little tips here. As we're cutting this out, we sort of thought about them. If you have a hole that is really close to the edge here, and this hole or this punch is a little bit bigger, you can actually do a half circle punch. I mean, it's still going to seal and it's still going to give you that half circle, and it'll give you that leeway to make sure the trim is going to go on. So it doesn't matter if there's a little bit of a gap there. Secondly, you actually have this hole in the center here, and the reason we're very blasé when we actually cut those is because we use the lid of the speaker, or sorry, the tube, to actually cut that speaker hole out. We can actually center this. We actually do use our knife on this one. We go around the outside. and we can cut a perfect circle. So that's just an easy way to actually get the circle, and you don't have to worry too much about being perfect. So we have a couple more little sections we're going to have to cut out now just to make it a little bit neater. Just at the top here, just going to quickly cut that top section out. I'm going to use a knife because of the angle. And there we have it. So that will be our finished template. So that will actually sit on the door. So as you can see, looks like a bit of Swiss cheese. But she is going to fit up there nicely into all the positions that we need it in. Okay, so what we're doing here, we're actually going to pull these speakers off because it's actually how it should be done. These would have been off initially when you pulled off that membrane, and you would already be able to put this directly on. But like I said, this is a bit of a demonstration, so we had these put back on. And the reason you would do this is so you can actually test this out before you go and stick it on. So, plus it's easier to actually line it up like this. We're going to sit this on. You can actually hold it there and make sure all the holes that you did will line up. The second thing you're going to be doing is checking that you didn't miss any holes. So you can actually see here, you come around the edge here, bring the camera in, we'll have a look. See the bottom holes are actually lining up where the trim panels go, but at the top here, we did miss one. There was a hole here where the panel goes on. So we marked that one. This is where our cables are going to come through. This is a screw here. This one up here, we've actually cut out, but it needs to be a bit wider. So we're going to expand that and do another hole. And we're going to look at the other ones. These ones line up good. Very good there. Very nice there. It's a bit of an opening for the cables and the 3 holes in the bottom corner. So there we go. So there's only really those 2 that we need to cut, and we're going to expand them.